watching Shalom TV, celebrating Jewish culture. Funding for Shalom TV has been provided by the following: and by viewers like you.
I'm Gary Gazark with this week's Israel Update. American broadcaster Glenn Beck held an inspirational rally restoring courage in support of Israel and the Jewish people at the Davidson Center near the Kotel Plaza in Jerusalem. The rally was attended by thousands, mostly evangelical Christians, many of whom came to Israel with him, and was viewed by many more on a giant screen at Safra Square in Jerusalem and worldwide on Beck's web-based television station. "What can I teach Israel about courage?" he asked after the audience had risen for Hatikvah, Israel's national anthem, led by famed singer Dudu Fisher, with many waving Israeli and American flags. "Nothing," he said with emphasis. "I'm going to learn courage here. There is more courage in 1 square mile in Israel than in all of Europe," bringing the audience to its feet. Beck awarded prizes for faith, hope, and charity, respectively, to the Fogel family, the Arab and Jewish owners of Maxim restaurant in Haifa, that was the site of a suicide bomb, and philanthropic supermarket chain owner Rami Levy, showing a moving film about each of the recipients. "Everything we know about human rights and real civilization came from this place, this land," he said. "Whether you live by 613 commandments, 10 commandments, or one sweet golden rule, it's all started here. It all started here, the throne of God. Israel did not come into being because of the Balfour Declaration, but because of God's covenant with the Jewish people. When the world turns its back on Israel and the Jewish people, the world turns its back on human rights. Without the Jewish people, humanity would never know that every single individual life has dignity, that every single life is sacred," Beck said, and continued. "It's easy to blame Israel, so that's what the human rights organizations that ignore Libya and Syria do. Dismiss them. Evil is there again. Swastikas are seen again. In Cairo, they called for gas chambers. We know you mean what you say, but so do we, and we're going to win." In closing, he asked Israelis not to lose hope. Dozens of leftist activists gathered outside the center to protest against Beck, who they considered to be an extreme right-winger. They held banners saying, "Glenn Beck, go home." In his speech at the rally, Jerusalem Mayor Nir Barkat declared that Jerusalem will remain united forever. Beck added that the event concerns issues that affect the entire world. Knesset member Dani Danon, Likud, addressed the controversy over Beck's visit to Israel and the Jerusalem municipality's involvement in the event. "We have too many enemies around the world, so even when the true supporters of the State of Israel come to visit, there are those among us who don't know how to honor and appreciate them." Despite criticism from left-wing organizations, we must say that Glenn Beck represents dozens of millions of people who support him and his opinions. "We are proud of this relationship and not embarrassed by it," he said. "Anyone who supports Israel in such a brave way must be supported." Oscar-winning American actor Jon Voight, who also participated in Beck's event, slammed Palestinian terrorism. Voight, who is not Jewish, praised Israel and the Jewish people in his speech. He made reference to suicide bombings and to the March 11 slayings of the Fogel family in Itamar. "How have we come to a time when blowing up babies and cutting their throats are an acceptable means to a political goal?" Voight asked. "I feel complete contempt for anyone not intelligent enough to see that the media propaganda portraying the Palestinians as victims endangers the State of Israel. We are facing a new Holocaust, and people of all faiths must demand that the truth be heard. Palestinian radicals have only one prayer on their lips: to remove every Jew from Israel. Voigt received a standing ovation for saying, "We will not bend to terrorism in any way, shape, or form for the sake of peace." Ahead of major Jerusalem event, U.S. law professor Alan Dershowitz expressed support for Glenn Beck's rally, saying he believes controversial commentators' motives are genuine. Dershowitz stated in a piece published in Hudson, New York, "At a time when old friends and allies who should be supporting the Jewish state are abandoning it in droves, Beck's willingness to stand up for Israel must be accepted with gratitude." He added that he certainly admires Beck's decision to go to Israel far more than the decision of so many so-called artists and intellectuals who call for a boycott against the Jewish state without even bothering to go there and see for themselves. Dershowitz also noted, "I welcome the support of religious Christians who love Israel for religious reasons. I abhor the ignorant and misguided efforts of other Christians, such as Jimmy Carter and Desmond Tutu, who misuse their faith against the Jewish state." At the same time, U.S. Senator Joe Lieberman and Representative Eric Cantor have announced that they will not take part in the rally. The whistleblower site WikiLeaks has published almost 4,000 unclassified U.S. State Department documents that originated from the Tel Aviv embassy on peace process, on Vatican-Jewish relations, and on terror attacks. One cable suggested that Libya provided direct support for a terrorist attacks carried out by the Palestinian Liberation Front. Another stated that the death of the wheelchair-bound Hamas leader Yassin, who was killed by an Israeli Air Force missile as he left a mosque in the Gaza Strip, would seriously affect tourism in Israel. According to another leaked cable, the U.S. State Department highlighted the importance of understanding the religious sector in Israel because, quote, "coalitions often give small parties, including the religious parties, influence far exceeding their electoral weight," unquote. Even as the situation along the Gaza border and Egypt border remain tense, the Palestinian terrorists seem to be crossing the border without problem in order to initiate deadly attacks on Israeli soldiers and civilians. Israel's Security Cabinet focused more on how Israel should react if the UN General Assembly passes a Palestinian statehood recognition resolution than on the state of affairs in the south. According to the sources, the Security Cabinet was briefed on the various options available to Israel if the Palestinian Authority did go ahead with its plans to take the statehood issue to the UN. One source said that there were a number of arrows in Israel's quill, and a decision still needed to be taken regarding which arrow to take out and use. The sources said that while various options were being weighed, no final decision had yet been made as the US, EU, and Quartet were still trying to find a way to renew the talks, and as Israeli diplomats abroad were actively lobbying their counterparts to convince the Palestinians to step back from the move. Within the government, there is a sense that perhaps up to 60 countries could be convinced to abstain on the PA move, still leaving the Palestinians with more than enough votes to get a resolution passed easily. In addition to having to decide on how to respond if the Palestinian Authority goes ahead with its UN gambit, government sources said Israel also had to decide whether it wanted to publicly reveal what it would do beforehand, thereby giving the Palestinians a clear choice. While the United Nations General Assembly debate on this matter is likely around September 20th, that would only be the opening of discussion on the matter. A vote would not be expected until sometime in October, giving some in Jerusalem a sense that there is still time to work with. For Shalom TV, I'm Gary Gazark with this week's Israel Update.